Welcome to Tuesdays with Andrea. It's the inspiration station for everyday people guiding humanity forward. I'm your host, Arturo Rios McMillan, and every week I pursue conversations that matter with people who can relate to the common struggles we all face. You'll get to know the person behind the profession and find commonality with people of all ages, cultures, and backgrounds. Listen as friends, neighbors, and coworkers offer meaningful, personal explorations of modern life and the values we hold dear, all for the purpose of strengthening and uplifting others. Well, thank you, Dad, for joining the show.
Well, thank you for having me on your platform. But
Of course. And it was important for you to come on, and you wanted to share your message, you wanted to share your story, you wanted to help other people. So why don't we start there with explaining why you're on the show today?
Well, thank you for having me on your show, Andrea, my daughter. The reason why I'm on your show, first of all, it's because I have a message to share with younger people. Addiction robs a lot of people of their youth and years of their life, making a lot of mistakes, making behavior decisions that affect your life forever. So I think by sharing my story, I think I'm hoping that it can make an impact and maybe someone out there that will listen and not make the same choices or mistakes that I did, or even keep trying to get the opportunity to get treatment. Because if they can get treatment at an early stage of their lives, I think that it can save a lot of headaches and misfortune and be a productive, citizen again. So I think that sharing a story, I'm hoping that it will make an impact in someone's life in addiction.
Okay.
So that's my reason.
And I'll kind of recap where you are right now. So my dad just got out of jail. He is 55 years old, and he just got out of jail for a felony charge of a DWI. This was your third DWI offense. And
Right.
You received, I think, 5 years in prison. You served 2 years, completing your full, your sentencing. So you weren't released early as much as we were trying to do that for the coronavirus. That didn't happen, but you are released on your regular scheduled parole time a little bit earlier because of your good behavior and your ability to earn trust inside of the jail, things like that. But now that you're out, you're 55 years old, and you've lost everything, right? Before this, you were a successful business owner and civil engineer and working with the city of San Antonio to do the work that you do in the civil engineering field. And you had a good life, but you've always struggled also with alcoholism, hence the 3 DWIs. So why don't you share with me, like, what does that feel like now being out and kind of going from where you were before to now being here?
Well, first of all, I was an owner of a civil engineering firm. I kind of worked my way up the ladder, and I became a functional alcoholic because I was productive, but yet I was becoming an alcoholic throughout that time. And yes, my DWI's conviction, as I look back, I lost everything. Yes, I lost my business, my home. I lost my relationships, with personal people that I cared about. I totally got out of touch with my family and friends, and especially my social life. Became a loner. So that's what alcohol does, when you're self-medicating, and so losing everything has been a real struggle. As I look back throughout my childhood years, being the dysfunctional family, the physical and emotional abuse that I went through, it created a persona in me that I didn't realize until I was in jail. When I was, particularly this, here and coming out of prison, I went to a treatment center, and the Hamilton unit, and it was a corporation called MTC, which handles alcohol treatment. And I was in this treatment program for 6 months, and I've learned a lot of tools and lessons and rational self-analysis and cognitive behavior, anger management, and social skills, and but more so the addiction portion of it, dealing with psychiatrists and therapists and LCDC counselors, licensed chemical dependency counselors.
And this was the first time you received treatment?
Yes, this is the very first time in my life that I ever received treatment. And I'm glad you touched on that, because I think that if I would have had treatment in my first time, that I had a DWI, I think that it would have made an impact on my, on my future decisions or even my behavior, because this treatment center really were aggressive in treatment. This was 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 6 months, 180 days straight. And so it was very intense. And so, yeah, it was very beneficial, and it helped me with my thinking and to analyze myself and my past issues with alcohol.
Would you say that going to jail then this time helped you in that way? Because you would, what stopped you from getting treatment the first time after the first DUI or even the second DUI, even though it wasn't mandated by the court? What made you not think you had a problem after those two to put yourself into a treatment facility?
No, the first time it was just a probation period, and so you really.
How old were you?
I was third. No, my first DWI, I was young. I was very young. I was 19 years old. And then my second, it was when I was in 2003. And so that's about 15, 16 years ago. And
how much time passed from when you got your first one to your second? You're saying about 15 years roughly?
Yeah, they've been sporadic, like every 13, 14 years apart.
And were they in the same state?
Well, no, one was in Illinois.
And the first one was in Illinois.
Yeah. And it followed me over here to Texas, yes. So they use that, I guess, against my record, So the DWIs they're pretty hard on them, So they follow you throughout your life. They don't go away, So on your record.
When after you got that first DWI, how much time in jail did you get?
None. I was put on probation. That I think that was the problem. I think that when I was on probation, they didn't offer any kind of treatment or any kind of type of counseling or any type of programs like AA, or it wasn't mandated or mandatory that I attend. And so I think that I didn't take it serious, and so it didn't change my behavior. It didn't change. Did
you think you had a problem at that time?
No, not at all. It didn't even cross my mind that he even had a problem. I thought, okay, I just got caught and that was it. And so it was easy to blow off or to minimize the impact of the severity of drinking and driving. And on my second one, it was basically the same thing. I did it was I think a year and a half of probation, and I completed the probation and I was done with it, but no treatment was offered either. So again, it was like a cycle of get in trouble with the DUI, get on probation, you're out, no treatment, and go on with your life.
Because so much time had passed, I could understand how it may be, you're like, oh, I just got caught again. But were you still drinking? I feel like at that time you were still struggling with alcohol. Like we all saw it, and I felt like you saw it even with Wello, your dad. So I guess what's that justification process like? Like, I know my dad has an issue with alcoholism. I'm probably having some sort of issue, and this is now my second DUI.
It was denial. Our family past generations have struggled with alcohol, being functional alcoholics at that. I thought, well, it ain't going to happen to me. I'm different. I'm handling it. I was in denial, strictly denial. I didn't admit that I had a problem. I couldn't admit I had too much pride.
Yeah.
I'm a very powerful man. And so when your pride is way up there, nothing is wrong, until you lose everything, basically. So when you're humbled, and so then you start doing self-analysis and start thinking, well, maybe I do got a problem.
And how much time passed between the second DWI in Texas and the third DWI?
14 years went by. 14 years. And from the second to the third, DWI, I accomplished a lot. I worked for an engineering firm, and then I started a business on my own. And I partnered up. I brought in partners eventually. And so I was being a productive, functional alcoholic. I want to say now that as I look back, but, I will throughout, I could see in time, I was becoming a loner. I was not socializing with family members and friends, even in my relationships, my personal relationships with people that I cared about.
During that time of being a functional alcoholic and in between building your business up, getting a house, or, trying to just resume your life. Here's the other question I have is so what were the other jail things for that when you were in jail?
For DUI.
No, because I feel like you were in and out of jail since I was like 6.
Well, okay. Well,
so what was it? Was those off? If the first one was probation.
Going back to my earlier years in my life, this is where I came to terms with how I became a functional alcoholic because of I want to say my upbringing and thinking and knowing that alcohol was okay. After seeing my father and in the household being a functional alcoholic, because my father was an alcoholic and my mom was an enabler in a dysfunctional family. I grew up in an abusive and emotional abuse and other things that happened in my personal life. But as throughout those years, anger built up, frustration built up, failures built up. And even then, when I became emotionally stressed or physically stressed, my self-medication was turning to alcohol and drugs. And so at an early age, that's what I did. When I was affected by emotional or physical stress, I was self-medicating. Mm-hmm. And so at an early age, at 13, 14, I was drinking wine and beer. The failure started accumulating up then. I started dissocializing with school, with church, with family. I started being rebellious at home. I ran away from home when I was 15 years old. That's not normal. And so then I ran away again when I was 15. I actually moved out. So I started at a young age of being independent, and so, but I always worked, Then I met your mom. And so, and even then I was a functional alcoholic. I was the beginning of the stages of being an alcoholic and drug abuse. And so
when you say drug abuse, what kind of drugs?
Pot, and then pot. When I met your mom, was only pot, marijuana, and so. But once we separated and we were going through a divorce, I started using hard drugs, cocaine, freebasing, acid, and
you did
marijuana.
Acid, Dad?
Yes, yeah,
oh my
I did.
God. What was
all
it?
The white people in West Aurora did acid.
No way. Well, I don't even know what freebasing is. I know
it's a
weed.
Form of cocaine. It's a form of cocaine in the pipe.
Okay.
It's like crack, basically, same thing. But that's what it was called back then. And then I started socializing when I was going through my divorce, separated from your mom. I started hanging around the bad crowd, and they were formed. They were we call them crack houses here nowadays, but back then they were smoke houses. And so I was involved with a group of guys that were out there burglarizing. And
how old were you?
So I was when I was separated from your mom, I was 21, 22, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was totally lost then. I was devastated by the divorce, going through the divorce, losing my family. And so it was easy to turn to other people, which other people turned out to be bad people. And so that's what got me in trouble with the law. And so, I got in trouble. And instead of Illinois,
what did you do?
I didn't do nothing. I was involved. They were stealing, and I was in a car. And so they caught.
Well, what happened? Tell me the story of that.
Well, I guess they were burglarizing, and they had all
The people that
stolen
you were
property.
hanging out with were committing
They
burglaries
were
to
committing
support their
burglaries.
habit,
Yes, yeah, they were completing burglaries, and so one day that I got in the car and with them,
knowing that they were
and
going to go do that.
no. They had stolen items in the trunk, and we were on the way to pick up some more drugs, and we got pulled over. When we got pulled over, they had seen all the stolen property in the trunk of the car, and they started putting one to one together, and they thought that we were in a burglary ring or something like that. And that's why I was charged with burglary and theft. Because I was hanging around with those guys because we were caught with stolen items in the car. Yes.
But you didn't do it.
No. I was doing the drugs, but I wasn't stealing. I hold myself accountable because I put myself in that position to be around them.
Yeah.
And so I'm not denying the fact that I got in trouble and I actually went to prison for that too.
And that's where you were in prison when we were younger.
In Illinois, yes. Yeah. When you were young, when you were like 1 year old, 2 years old, yeah.
Weren't you also in a jail when we were like 6 and 7 though, like some state penitentiary here?
No. That was it.
Where was the one like that we would have to drive to?
That was it.
Okay, so we were older than one though, because I remember that.
Yeah, you were like 2 or 3. You were like 3 or 4. Yeah.
I remember remembering it.
Yeah, you were walking already. You were walking as you were running because you and your mom used to come and visit me, and we would go to the yard and we put a blanket in. And we were out there, and yeah, and so you and your mom would talk and
that was the state one though.
Yeah.
What about the one that was here in Aurora, like the halfway house across from Mercy?
When I got released from there, they went to the halfway house. Okay. Yeah. So that was the same thing.
Okay.
Except it was just the process of being in prison, and I got out there. When I went to prison there, I went to school. I took advantage of that time, and I took advantage. I got my GED there because I didn't finish. I dropped out of my senior year. I dropped out of B because of drugs and alcohol. I dropped. I stopped going to school. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't want to go to the Air Force. That's another thing you don't know. That was one of the failures. I met your mom and I was committed to go to the Air Force. I was already enrolled and signed up to go. And all I had to do was graduate and I would go, and I was leaving. I had met your mom and so I fell in love with your mom and I didn't want to go no more. And so I just said, well, the only way I could get out of it if I don't graduate. And sure enough, that's what happened. I chose not to go to school, because I was madly in love with your mom.
So you regret the decision that you didn't go to the Air Force because at that time you didn't want to go because you didn't have in your mind a true incentive to go anymore. Right. And then you actually went to jail, and then from there you're living in you get out, you go to the halfway house. But what made you move to Texas?
Going through the divorce. When I went to prison there because of my drug use, hanging around those guys. When I got out, me and your mom, we tried to patch up our relationship, right? And when I seen that it wasn't going to work out, that we actually filed for the divorce, I didn't want to be a part of seeing her with another man or me being with another woman. It was just a lot of stressful emotions, right? I started going to DeVry University there in Lombard, Illinois, and actually I did a year. And so when we actually filed for the divorce, then I had the opportunity to leave Aurora and get away from not only the friends and the environment. And I thought that maybe coming to Texas would be better for me until I got my life back together, making sure that I wasn't around those bad influences anymore. And so I transferred to Irving, Texas, to the DeVry University there in Dallas. And so that was my reason for leaving Illinois, to start a new life and get away from all that bad stuff that was going on back in Illinois. Even though I was leaving my daughters, I remember that day, the day I left, it was very painful. It was hard. It was hard to do, very hard. But I thought at that time, without thinking, of the consequences or what I was actually doing by being away, But in the end, I had no regrets. I think that when I left, that I structured my life a little better, because I did go to school, and so I was productive in that point, from that aspect. Yes.
What were you in jail for when we were like in second, third, fourth grade?
Again, I was in my addiction. Once I left Dallas, I came to San Antonio, and I was drinking, and I got caught with drugs, and I wrote some checks, some hot checks, and so I got in trouble for that. Due to my past criminal history from Illinois, they used that against me. So anything that I got in trouble for, they took it kind of harsh, here in Texas, and so they punish you for that too. Because of that.
And how long were you in jail that time?
9 months, 10 months.
Yeah. And then after that, was there ever a wake up call for you? Was there ever in between those times that you felt like, man, this is too much. I've gone down the wrong path. I need to change my life?
No, not at all. And then there again, after my treatment classes, so you see, I was never dealing with my hardcore issues that I had.
What were those?
So
like when you say hardcore issues, what were those?
What I'm saying is that even though I got the impact of being, incarcerated, when I got out, I resumed my life back without thinking that I had a drinking problem. Because I went back to drinking, and I went back to using pot. And so I never thought that I had a problem with that. I thought the problem was, okay, so I'm not going to write no more checks. Okay, I got in trouble for that. I'm going to stop doing that. When I got in trouble in Illinois, I started hanging around with friends that were stealing, so I stopped doing that. So, yeah, to me, the issue was my drinking and my alcohol use. You see, I didn't get it back then. The hardcore issue was that I was in my addiction then. I didn't realize I had a problem. It wasn't because of what I was doing, because the drinking and the drugging caused me to do what I was doing. You see,
but the choice of drinking and drugging.
But because of my addiction, when you're in your addiction, when you're in denial, you think you don't have the problem.
Yeah.
You think that you don't understand that you have a problem. Even though, because you don't realize that you're making these choices because of that, because you're addicted. You know what I mean? It's like a disease you need to have. You want to do it. And so I never thought that I had a problem. See, that's what I'm trying to make you understand. Is that I had a problem with alcohol and drugs, which caused me to make decisions and choices that caused me to get in trouble with the law. You see, I was never dealing with the hardcore issue of my addiction, realizing that I had a problem with alcohol and drugs. Number one, that was it. I always had that problem, but I never addressed that problem. I was in denial. Right. Because I stopped making. I never went to prison again for burglary or stealing.
Yeah.
I never went to prison for hot checks again. Right. So I never went to jail for anything that I did twice, except for the DUI.
Well, three times.
Yeah.
That's where it's like, okay, that's how you know how to pivot, and how to curve.
As I look back, when thinking back now that I had this treatment program, I can see, because look, I did a timeline, and one of the treatment processes that we did was a timeline. What they made us do, or I was told to do, and I did it. I did a timeline from 1 to 12, 13 to 21, 22 to 35, 36 to 45, and then 45 to now. And everything on top, I put everything bad that happened in my life that I can remember every year. And everything on the bottom, I put everything bad that I remember, everything good and everything bad. And I could see a pattern. The pattern was abuse, physical, the trauma that I went through at early childhood, dealing with all the abuse and physical and sexual abuse, and all that trauma that I went through. And so every time I got emotionally stressed or physically abused, I turned to alcohol. I self-medicated. That was my form, because I was watching my dad and my family and my uncles and my aunts and everybody drink.
Everybody drank every night.
Everybody drank. So that was a normal thing to do. You see, so I was taught that. Then being genetically in my blood, in my system. Yes. So it was a craving at the same time, you see. So drinking was a normal thing for me.
Yeah.
And so, but when I got emotionally or physically stressed out, I turned to alcohol and drugs to self-medicate myself.
Yeah.
And see, in treatment, I realized that I seen that pattern, you see. So I could see the cause, I could see, the cause, the effect, and the consequences all in one, black and white, and my timeline.
Yeah.
For the 4 times I've been in trouble with the law, that's exactly what happened.
And you didn't want to recognize that before, because to you that was your coping.
I didn't recognize it before because I never had the treatment before.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to recognize it because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
No one ever told me, all right, look, you got a problem. This is how you're going to fix this problem. Like the treatment that I went through now, and so the self-rational analysis, the cognitive thinking, the behavior, anger management, all these are, and the DWI flex and alcohol and addiction issues. These are all these courses and classes that I had that was able to process and program.
So in that sense, are you happy that you went to jail that 3rd time? Like, did that 3rd time, this last time, actually do you good?
Given the opportunity of taking this treatment program, and finally the state of Texas, they said, oh, well, you know what? This guy has a problem. Maybe we ought to get him in treatment. They gave it to me and I took it. All right. I signed up for it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give it to me. I signed up for it. When I went to prison, I put a note telling to the education department, telling them I needed treatment. Then I wanted to take a treatment class. And so then the parole board seen that and they sent me to a DWI program unit at the Hamilton unit.
Yeah.
And I was able to take that to put myself in treatment. Yes.
Yeah. What about now? Now you're out and you've had an opportunity to have that treatment, something you didn't have before. How are you coping now with the world being so different? So now when you're out, so let's explain that process of when you're released, what do they do? What is it like getting out of jail? Explain to the world, what is that like? What's that process like?
Well, being in treatment, first of all, I'm glad you're touching on that because first of all, I was scared, coming out. But most of the time, the guys are happy, they're getting out, they're going to go home. No, I wasn't, because of the fact that after being in treatment and reckoning, doing a self-analysis of my life and going back to my young childhood days of everything that I healed, being in prison, and so. And processing all that negative and stuff that I had within me, getting out was I was scared, because thinking about stress, the emotional stress, going back into the same environment, that I was before, not having to deal with or wanting to deal with other negative issues that I had in my past. Because I was, in treatment, the first thing that they teach you is, okay, first you think about what was the core issues of your life from your childhood ages to throughout your life. Kind of self-analyze what happened. Why did you do that? What you did, and it all goes back to your addiction or your trauma or your physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. Right, that's the core issue, and then depending on alcohol and drugs to self-medicate yourself. And then you become addicted, right? And then you start making bad choices and decisions, whether it's anger, aggressive, or control, or whatever it is. And so thinking back when I was getting released, I was thinking, okay, I've gone through all this. I've already healed. Now I don't want to go back to dealing with that again. Yeah. And so from that point, I was scared. Because I didn't want to have to come and deal with all that again. Because I think I healed,
And you still, and when you say you're scared, does that mean you don't want to come out? Or does that mean that, because you still wanted to come out. You still wanted to come out.
No, absolutely. I mean, no one wants to be in jail. Told what to do, what not to do, and when to do it. And so you have no control in your life when you're incarcerated. You have
Are the guards nice in jail?
No, they're horrible. They're very, they're not.
Are there any good guards in jail? Like you've been to, through jail, the process in two different states.
The counselors were great. They were human.
Those are,
the guards were, I guess they had a front that they have to, adhere to, to I guess develop some type of order, and so maybe that's they have to be that way, but they're very demanding, very abusive in language and their authority to tell you what to do. You got to remember, I was in a treatment center, a unit, so it's a little bit different. I think that they were trained to make your life, your stay, not I want to say miserable, but to kind of test you,
prepare you.
Test you in terms of your anger, how you control, how you're going to respond. Because they know you're going through treatment. They know that you're going through all these treatment phases, right? Anger management being one. And so I think that their authority, power overseeing you, they were testing you a lot. You get tested a lot. And so that was kind of hard to deal with. Fear, living in fear with other guys that didn't care about treatment. There's a lot of those guys there too. They were just there because they know they're going home, and so you're constantly living in fear. But getting back to being released, I was scared, but yes, I was happy that I was getting released. Did I expect coming out that it was going to be this difficult? No. I thought that I would come back and get back to engineering work, and I didn't expect to be in this pandemic, with this COVID-19 and everything being locked down, shut down, no work, nothing open, and then, upon being released, they only give you $100, and that's it. You got but if you don't got a place to go, you don't got a place to go. If you ain't got no family, you ain't got no family. If you ain't got a car, you ain't got no car. You ain't got no clothes, you ain't got no clothes. And that's what I came out to, to nothing. If it wasn't for you and your sister, I mean, and your grandma, I would be homeless, and so the state of Texas doesn't prepare you, to be released. They just throw you out there and it's okay, you're out, go, that's it. And you're on your own. And then coming out to a pandemic where everything's shut down, no work, that's even harder. It's even worse, so that, by itself makes it even a greater struggle. But one of the things that I did learn is how to depend on God, and that was number one. Number two is maintaining sobriety by applying the tools that I learned, and making decisions but one of the key elements to living a sober life is maintaining sobriety. Maintaining sobriety means working on your body and your mind, right? To keeping active, physically, to being, healthy, living a healthy lifestyle, working out, gym, walking, running, exercise, praying, your one-on-one relationship with God, putting God first in your daily life. I think it's probably the most important. And then going to AA meetings or being in a group or socializing with people that are also in sobriety. Like I've been doing that. And so that's maintaining sobriety. I have not even had the urge to drink. I have a store right at the bottom of there's beer, there's everything. I see it and it doesn't even faze me no more. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't anything. I choose not to. And so I think that the healing process, it doesn't faze me anymore. I think that not only was the treatment a good impact in changing my life, but putting God first and back in my life was probably the number one thing best thing that ever happened to me. And then living a sober life is very crucial. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the way you do that is by focusing on God, group, and body, being healthy.
But for group, you mean community?
Yeah, like tomorrow, I'm going to Outcry Navajo here in San Antonio, Texas. It's an outreach center for addicts, and I got to be there tomorrow at 5:00. I'm gonna give a testimony to just like I'm doing with you right now, opening up about my addiction, how I got to prison, and then now upon my release, hoping to make an impact on these younger kids that are in there. As part of my recovery, maintaining sobriety, because if I'm doing that, I'm also helping myself.
Yeah.
And that's how you keep focused in recovery and not in maintaining your sobriety. And that's a key to sobriety.
What are you going to tell them? So when you think about other people,
I think that the first thing that needs to be said is I just got out of prison because of my alcohol and drug addiction. Period. That's it. And that alone says a lot, because it gets their attention, because they're not in prison yet. When people, I remember particularly me when I was in the county jail, when I went to a Bible study class, and the pastor, first thing he said is, I'm a pastor of Cross Church in San Benito, Texas. And the second thing he said is, I was in prison and I just got out 4 years ago. And boom, it caught everybody's attention. When you say that, it carries a lot of power. People listen, because, first of all, they're in the treatment center and this guy just got out of prison for something. They want to know what, why, how, what happened. And so it's because some of them don't want to go to prison. So they want to know why, what happened, out of curiosity, that would probably be the first thing that I would say.
Yeah.
Second thing that I would say is I just want to thank Lord Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior for changing my life. That would be the second thing I would say. And then, I don't know, I'm writing a little PowerPoint thing that what I'm going to talk about. A lot of times, a lot of guys, the first thing that they'll start asking questions, why, how, how much time did you do? Where were you at? I'll just take it from there. I'm not gonna write no speech. I don't have to. I have this and I have my experience. So
yeah.
One of the things that I know that I'll be asked is, how was it in prison? And my answer would be tough and rough. And if you're not mentally stable, then you could be easily you'll be living in fear. Prison is fear. You live in fear. You live under being controlled, which a lot of people are not used to being controlled. And so when you control and you live in fear, then it's not good. So you have to be mentally strong, to overcome that fear. Because you're in prison, you're dealing with rapists, murderers, and all types of people. Now, I'm not saying that they're good or bad; it doesn't matter. But that's the type of people that you deal with. And so you have people that have been there for life or going to be there for life, 50 years. I remember when I first went in there, I was put in a cell with a guy that was going to do 50 years. And now I only got a 5-year sentence. So it's a big difference. He's not probably ever going to come out. I am. And so when you're living with someone in a cell, you live in fear. Well, this guy has nothing to lose. I got everything to lose. And so when you're living under those conditions, it's draining.
What are some of the scary parts that you've dealt with there? Like, you told me,
fighting, people wanting to fight just for coffee, like I did.
What was that story?
I had made commissary. I had bought some coffee because I drink coffee, and so I put it on my metal bunk, and I turned around and I went back to the door to sign. When I came back, the coffee bag was gone. And so the guy next to me, he took it. And so I asked him for it back. And he didn't respond. He was a young kid. He was 24 years old, but he was real muscular, taller than, he was bigger than me. And I'm pretty big, but he was bigger than me. But I have a neck injury, and typically I would back down. But this time I felt that there was no way with my injury I was even going to take a chance. And so to try to get it back physically, whether, when it comes to, you go get it, But this time I took it upon myself to be a little bit more mature. And so I told the guard, I go, hey,
You
man.
snitched in jail.
Yes, I snitched. You want to call it snitching? Well, to me, it's not snitching. To me, is acting in a more mature way, But in prison, it's not that. But
yeah, you tell me what prison's like, because I don't know.
When the guard came and the guard said, well, whoever took your stuff, put it back, and blah, 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 then they call me a snitch. So So I told him, I go, I'm not a snitch, man. Look, I just don't want to fight for my bag back because I know that's what's going to happen. And then he got mad and he wanted to fight me. He called me, let's go to the shower. I said, I ain't walking to the shower. So I go, look, he goes, so then I just told the guy, you know what? I don't want any problems with this guy. Why don't you just move me out of here? So they moved me out of the dorm. And the next day when your sister came to visit me, I told her about it. She started laughing too. But I told her
not because we think it's funny, but
no, well, yeah, over a bag of coffee. Yes, a $2 bag of coffee. And probably getting physically abused, you know, it hurt, you know, because that's what happens when you fight, you get stabbed, you get beaten up, you get kicked, and you get punched, and there's no guards to protect you.
Have you been in that situation before?
Yeah.
What does that do? Like when you're in that situation,
you have to prove it, and you know, first of all, they consider you weak if you don't stick up for yourself. You become a weak, and they take advantage of you. They start, you know, in the terminology, and they're punking you out or bullying. That's then another word for bullying you, and they take advantage of you by taking your commissary or anything of that, you know, that's considered valuable in prison, right?
Is it easier for older men? Like now that you are 55 going into jail, was it a different experience when you were, you know, 30 versus 20? So
yeah, when I was younger, I mean, I was fearless, and as you become older, you're more mature in your thinking. You know, fighting is not really your first primary, you know, reaction to fight. Yeah, and so. You live more cautious, you know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and you got to deal with the typical young gangbangers, we call them, you know, the young crowd, and which they want to prove themselves, you know, or they got something to prove, or they want to think that they got something to prove. Yeah. And you have to deal with that type of behavior, and so, and if you don't react, you know, according to prison behavior, you know, whatnot, whether it's through aggressiveness or force or physical force, right? Then they consider you a weakling. And so a lot of times, you know, that, you know, I stood up for myself. I wasn't gonna let this guy beat me up either. You know, I'm a pretty big guy, and I don't think he would have either. But with my neck injury, no, I wasn't gonna take that chance. You know, so. But yeah, I've been in fights, yes.
And what is the gang situation in jail prevalent?
Yes, very much. Here in Texas, they have a PREA, which is I forgot what it stands for, but it's like an oversight department that oversees sexual abuse, physical abuse, and they kind of trying to weed out all the gang members and not put them together, or they try to weed out people that are going to be with aggressive behavior, try to put them in other units where that's all the people that are going to be there with that type of behavior.
Yeah.
And they put, you know, more mature people with more mature people in their age group, you know. So yeah, they've gotten better about that, but it still happens a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can't protect you in the shower. They can't protect you in your living quarters, you know. The only, you know, when you're visible, yeah, but when you're not, you're not, you know. So you still live in fear every day. Mm-hmm. It's not good.
Do you see men come out of jail as better criminals? That's one of the questions that people ask is jail actually helping the people who got sent to jail, or is it creating more criminals? Because, like, you know, when you go to jail now, you're meeting better criminals.
Well, I think I can answer that from experience, because when I went to jail in the past, when I came out, I don't want to say I was a better criminal because I stopped doing that type of behavior, except for the drinking and the drugging, because I had an addiction. So that's different. But I wasn't a better criminal, no.
But maybe more savvy criminal?
No, not even. Well, me personally, no. But others, yes. I seen that, yes. Especially the younger guys. You know what? I seen that more with people that didn't have an education or they didn't have any job skills. You know, that type of people, yes, I seen that type of behavior.
Because that's their job. That becomes their career.
And exactly.
Like a career criminal.
Yes. I've seen that a lot. People that take advantage of vocational classes or took college classes or took treatment classes. That type of behavior, I like for example, like myself in the unit that I was in, most of us there was either they had two sides. One was a DWI side, and one was a drug side. I was in a DWI side.
Yeah.
All of us made parole. You make parole, you go there, but you have to finish the treatment program before you go home. That type of unit.
Yeah.
So the way TDC, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, now in the prison system in Texas, and past, they didn't have these type of programs. They didn't have it, and so people were getting out doing the same thing or even better criminals, like you said, than before, because they didn't have these type of programs, or they chose not to get into these programs.
But the programs itself were good.
Yes.
Like the job skills program, the therapy and the treatment programs, the education for the GED, and the vocational education. Those are all great things for inmates, then, is what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and people that take advantage of them, I see a difference in their behaviors. They're totally different when they come out. Mm-hmm. They're more optimistic. They're more. I would say they persevere more. Mm-hmm. They come out with a little bit more of a purpose of doing the right thing. Of getting back their life. Straighten out their lives. And I can see that. And the flip side of that, I can also see the people that don't take advantage of these programs. They come out the same or worse. And so you could definitely tell the difference. When I got released, the day that I got released, there was 15 of us. It was May the 15th of this year. And out of those 15 that I seen that were there waiting for our family members to pick us up, I know for a fact half of them didn't care about that program. And I would think, and I would bet if I was a betting man, I would bet that they were probably out there drinking right now, or not maintaining a sobriety life anyways, or maintaining it, or trying to. I would say half. So yeah, the odds are stacked against people that don't want to adhere to treatment or change their lives.
Yeah, but treatment itself is something that you would probably advocate for more people who are in jail.
Well,
sooner,
that's
right?
Yes, definitely. That's my purpose of going to Outcry this tomorrow. When I give that testimony tomorrow from 5 to 6, I'm going to emphasize on treatment, definitely. And I'm glad you touched on that. I do have a legal appeal, and the way my legal case was handled, because instead of sending me to prison, they could have sent me to treatment instead of sending me to prison. Not only the felony, but I lost everything.
Yeah.
I lost my business. I lost the cars. I lost my clothes. I lost my house. I lost everything that you could think of. I have absolutely nothing but a little bit of clothes and my paperwork, my forms, and my office.
And you don't even have an ID, right?
No, not even that.
You want to show them the ID that they give you when you get out of prison. And this is the only ID you can use right now.
Yeah, I'll show it to you.
I think this is one thing that needs to be like they should at least give a proper state ID.
Luckily, I was able to find my passport, and but yeah, this is the state ID that they gave me.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just as offender.
So that's the only and $100. That's it. Well, actually, $50 at the gate and another $50 when you report to the parole officer the very next day is mandatory. So once you get released, you got 24 hours to report with only $50, and that's it. And so they have a reentry program, but basically right now they don't give you no housing. They don't give you monies for. It's hard. $100 that doesn't even barely for food. It lasts you a week. That's it.
Yeah.
You're basically homeless. Me that I lost everything. You come out to nothing. And so the struggle with especially now with this pandemic makes it even harder because everything's shut down. There's no jobs. You can't work.
So describe your day, like since you've been out for about 3 weeks now, and my sister and I, we live out of state, and he can't come here with us right now because he's on probation for 30 days. Or how long is it, Dad? 3 months?
90 days. I got to be here 90. I'm pro 90 days into the system.
Right.
And I'm able to get a travel permit. Yeah.
Correct.
my daily routine is this. I get up in the morning at the hotel where I'm at. I have access to the internet and a laptop. So I'm able to go to Indeed, to LinkedIn, all these job referral services and apply for work in the engineering field. And so I get up and I look for work. I exercise. I go up and down the steps, to work on my healthy body, to maintain my body. And I drink coffee. I eat breakfast.
Which is your new addiction, because you have to. You don't really quit an
This
addiction.
Is my fifth cup.
Your fifth cup.
Fifth cup.
But at least it's a healthier addiction, right?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I love coffee now. Yeah, I drink it all day. But seriously,
I found this good coffee. I'm gonna send you some. Well, once we figure out what your new address is, I don't know. So, are you gonna go to a halfway house? Like, where are you gonna go?
I don't know. If I have to go back to your Weathers, I'm gonna have to go. I have no other choice. I mean, that's it.
There's no internet there. How are you gonna get in touch with people?
I have no idea.
Right? There's no transportation there. How are you gonna get back to the city with no money, no job?
Well, I applied for unemployment. But there's no telling if I'm even going to qualify, because I haven't worked. I haven't worked for 2 years, and when I did work, I was self-employed. So
how do you keep your head up, like in all of it? Like, how do you keep your head up to where it's like sometimes wouldn't it just be like, man, what do I have?
No, you know what keeps me going. First of all, I'm very optimistic. Second of all, I have faith. My power in God and my faith in God. I think that knowing that I've overcome the healing of my past, right? That was a big thing. Knowing that it's all gone. That I got it out of my system, something that I haven't done for 42 years, longer than that. I live with all that anger, resentment, hatred,
What does it feel to have that release? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel better?
I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable that, it makes it easier for me to be optimistic, because even though everything's shut down and I'm having a difficult time with just trying to get back on my feet, I'm still optimistic. I still have faith that I will overcome. I had a good job interview yesterday, 2 of them. They called me back. I had 2 interviews with the same company.
Awesome.
I'm hoping that they're going to make me an offer. And so I hope keep that in your prayers for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if not, I'll just keep plugging along. I mean, that's all I could do. Just keep going. I mean, I'm not going to go backwards. I'm not the type that's going to sit back and just not do nothing about it. I have to keep working, and I'm trying to land a job, to find a place, to get a car again.
Yeah.
Even though it's difficult, but I have faith that it's going to work out.
I remember my sister had this vision when we were teenagers, and this was, I think I don't know if you were in jail. I don't know what the situation was at the time, but I remember we were still like struggling to believe and have faith that God would like help us and then help you at the same time. Like, how do we deal with this? Right? We know our dad's in trouble and hurting, and how do we deal with this? And one time she's like, Angela, I have this vision of Dad, and it's me and Dad, and we're speaking to a group of people, like a huge group of people. And it's good. She's like, I don't know what it's about. I don't know what happens or anything. She's like, all I know is we're speaking to people together. And I've never lost sight of that vision. And that vision has always helped carry me, or at least give me some, like, and when you go to jail and as a daughter, you worry about your dad. I worry about you. I want you to stay safe. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be whole. I want you to be happy. And there's a lot of times when it's easy to lose that faith sometimes. Like, wait, how is this ever going to turn out right? Now, it's hard, right? But that vision alone has carried me. And I don't know if maybe this is hopefully the right path for you now. And maybe starting these speaking engagement, like that might help. That might help someone else and help you along the way.
Well, you know what? If anything, this experience, right? This past incarceration experience, my treatment. You know, when I was in Bible study class, and I'm glad you mentioned this because that I did find my purpose in my life. You know, when I was in Outcry, when I was in the county jail, I was hopeless. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was in fear. I probably knew I was going to go to prison, but I didn't expect. You know, I said, wow, again, I was really, really hard on myself. I was really, really feeling down. I was really, I don't know. It was a bad experience. It was a bad feeling. But I had hope, you know, and so daily I would pray. And then I said to myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to go to this Bible study class. And I did. I met this pastor called Jose Morales from Cross Church, San Benito, Texas. And as a matter of fact, hold on, I want to show you this. It's this one.
Yeah. Purpose driven that.
It's a book by Rick Warren.
Yeah.
And the program was a 6-week course, right? So I took it. And in that book, I think it was chapter 27, right, what talked about forgiveness. And that's when I first opened up my eyes. That's when I first processed everything that I had buried within me, which was the core issues of my addiction, I think. Well, no, that I know about the physical, the mental, and the sexual abuse in my life, right? When I was traumatized, that I had hidden all these feelings and everything that happened to me, I had hidden, stored away. I just didn't want to deal with it. And every time I was affected, either physically or emotionally, I used, you see. But but during this period that I was there, it was actually a year ago in March, I started the program last year. And it's from March to April. And so when I was there, really going through the book and going through the videos and the exercises, right? This pastor said, dude, I want to talk to you. So God's putting you in my path for a reason. And I said, I want you to stay here after class. So I did. And he sat me down and he goes, look, I want to pray over you. Something's telling me to pray over you. And wow. And we did. And he did. And when he prayed, emotionally, I just felt that I had to share. I was able to share. He goes, you need to tell me something. And I said, yeah. And it was just about the forgiveness part. I go, oh, man, I have a hard time to forgive me. And I brought everything out. The physical abuse, the emotional abuse, the sexual abuse. My disconnection with God. At 12 years old, I was in a Catholic church, and it was difficult. But as he prayed, I guess that was the start of my healing. And as we continued to go to Bible study class, you know, I was really, it forever changed my life. The book did, and the program. And so I found that experience, you know, it was very overwhelming. For the first time in my life, I was touched. I gave my life to Christ again. And as I went back to my bunk, you know, and I was thinking about the experience and thinking about outcry, you know, when I was there, dealing with the kids. Yeah. And so I told myself, I said, you know what? I want to be a counselor. And so I found my purpose in my life.
Yeah.
And so that, going through the outcry, going to the Bible study class and completing it, and then going through this has reinforced my treatment and my healing. So when I was coming out of prison, I was scared. That's why I was scared, because I knew I was healed. You see, and so and I made it a point in my life that I didn't want to go back to that lifestyle, and so now I choose not to be around that type of environment, and so, you know, if anything, this past year and a half, for the first time in my life, is really, I've dedicated myself to changing my life, but not only that, but to helping others. Yeah. I found my purpose in my life. And so that dream that your sister had, I think is going to be real. Yeah. Because you're going to see me, you know, I guess the practice that I'm going to start getting tomorrow.
You're doing now. You're doing it today.
What I'm doing now. I'm hoping that I can make an impact, you know, in changing someone's life, you know. So, yeah.
So for people like, is Jose Morales, is that what's his name?
Yeah.
God bless him, right? Because without him doing that work and fulfilling that mission, your life wouldn't have been impacted or changed in the way that it was.
That's right. That's right.
And it's people like that who are willing to speak up and willing to actually give their service and their time.
Yeah.
People who, you know, people in jail, you know this better than anyone, will write you off. People don't like you. You're a criminal. You deserve it. They think less sometimes. And I don't want to put the whole world in that category, but I think generally speaking, we have a bad rap and a stigma towards people who've been in jail, especially if you've been in jail more than once, right? If you've been in jail more than once, you're probably already like, why? You didn't learn the first time. And so we have a sense of distrust. There's not a lot of people who are willing to go in and do those services for people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So I'm not going to let, you know, people that have that frame of thinking or negative thinking about me influence in what I do from this point forward in my life. I have no control over that, and I'm not even going to worry about that. You know, so yeah, but there's a lot of people that do perceive you or write you off or whatever you want to call it, or have no faith or hope in you whatsoever. I'm sure that it's in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, and just like those people exist, so do the Jose Moraleses.
Exactly.
And those are the people we want to bring light to.
Or the counselors at MTC, or even my friends, my coworkers, even the people that I know that I'm out now, you know, even though they're not here to support me financially or anything, but morally, they're here, they're rooting for me, you know. Yeah. And so that is probably worth more than anything else, you know. But I've always persevered, and I've always been optimistic, and that's what. And then now that I reconnected with God and putting God back in my life again, you know, daily. I'm not talking about, you know, when things are bad. Even when things, you know, when I put God first in the mornings when I get up, the first thing that I do is I get on my knees and I open up Psalms 34. You know, that's the first thing I do, and I read that Psalms 34, and because that's what helped me get through everything. It says that God will deliver you from all your fears as long as you put trust in God first. That's it in a nutshell. If you read it, that's exactly what it is. He will deliver you from all your fears, but you have to trust in God first. That's it. That's it. And if you read it all, that's the key message. Yes. He delivered me from all my fears. I have to put God first.
So far, it's proven true, I guess, right? You've been delivered. Yes. You may not have much right now, but you're still alive. Now you have your mind right. I think that's more precious than anything, is you have your mind right.
I not only do I have my mind, but I have my health.
Yeah, and
my heart.
Yeah, your health.
I have my heart's been cleaned, my mind's been cleaned, and now my body. I'm working on my body. So
what do you say to other people who are maybe going down that same path? They don't recognize, they're in denial. What are some things you can share with them about ways to recognize maybe it's time to seek treatment?
The first thing that I would say is you got to get real with yourself. You know, you have to do a self-analysis in your heart. You know, thinking that, that you can get away with it, over and over and over. Well, because a lot of people, when you're in denial, you have to get real. You got to be honest with yourself, and then part of it is admitting that you have a problem. A lot of people don't want to admit that they have a problem. That's the first thing, that I would say is you got to get real. You have to admit. Once they can admit or see that they have a problem, then the second thing I would recommend would be getting treatment. Yeah, definitely. Going through a program like I did. Yeah.
What are those signs that you saw? So, like when the treatment, you probably went through things that they said, these are red flags. These are kind of the signs along the way that let me know.
When you dissocialize from family members, when you're dependent on alcohol daily, when you're drinking every day, and it doesn't start every day. It starts on the weekends. When you think that you're obligated to have a drink because you done good, or like
you deserve a break.
Like if you deserve it, yeah, that would be the first red flag, when you think that you deserve to go out there and have a drink. Second thing is when it affects your relationship with your spouse. When you put alcohol, not going to functions with your spouse, you're distancing yourself from your spouse, doing things with your spouse, that or being disaffectionate, with your kids, or not doing things as a family. Those would be red flags.
That loner thing, right?
Right, exactly. And then when if you start doing that, then you become more dependent on alcohol daily. That's going to happen. That's just a cycle. That's just a normal path. And so when you get to using alcohol daily, then you really distance yourself from family and your friends, and eventually you lose track of your work, whatever it is, and to sustain your employment, work, your family, friends, church, for sure, God. And so, yeah, those are all red flags, And so I could tell. I could look at somebody and I could tell just by sitting down in a room, and I could tell whether he has a problem or not. I could tell right away. I know there's a lot of people that don't, but I could tell.
How could you tell? What do you see?
The first thing I would ask, if he's in a group treatment, if I'm giving it, let's say like tomorrow, for example, when I go in there tomorrow, and then I'm going to have, I don't know how many people are going to be there, but when I go up and I tell them about me, and then, we start the group, I start the group discussion about introducing themselves. The first thing, when you go to a meeting, the first thing that comes up is, my name is Art. I'm an alcoholic or ex-alcoholic. You see, you're accountable, And so the first thing that I would hear is whether they're accountable or not. That's going to be the first thing I do, because they have to introduce themselves. And the way they introduce themselves is the way I'll be able to tell, whether they're sincere or if they're just there just to
or comply, not ready yet.
Or not ready yet. Right. Mm-hmm. And I could tell they're.
What recommendation? So that alcoholism destroys relationships. Just truly destroys. It's made for our relationship, father and daughters, me and my sister and you. We love you, right? But it's made it difficult, not easy. But we still love you. But everybody else around, it's hard. It destroys relationships. For someone else who is in a relationship with an alcoholic, what can they do? Is your recommendation run? Like, this isn't going to be good for you. You won't win in this situation until the alcoholic gets better. Is that the truth? I don't know.
Yeah, yes and no. They have to be, first of all, they have to be accountable for their actions, right? They have to admit that there is a problem. If people that, I've been in group sessions where people, they're in prison and in my treatment class and still in denial, or that I don't have a drinking problem. I just got caught. It was the first time. Yeah, right. Yeah. But that's lying. That's a form of lying.
Yeah, because for every time they get caught, it's probably 100 times of driving or something.
Right, exactly. That's a form of denial. That's lying. When you're in denial, it's lying. And so, because you don't want to be accountable for your actions, you know, and when you're not accountable for your actions, well, then you lie to cover for your actions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do. There were many times where, when I had my business, right, and when the workers would leave, they would leave at 5 o'clock. I would shut the door, lock the door, and I would drink. They never see me drink. See, that's one thing. I was a functional alcoholic, but I lied to them because they never see me. See, they always thought that I never drink and never smoke because they never seen me. But even though I would sneak out in the middle of at lunchtime and go have a beer or go smoke a joint and come back, put Visine in my eyes and put gum in my mouth, and I was good. You see, that's lying. You see, and or deceiving. And so, yeah, you would hide it, try to, a form of hiding. And so, yeah, there's a lot of that.
So what are some other ways that you've lied that maybe other people might recognize in themselves?
Well, first of all, not admitting that you have a problem. That's number one. That would be the first lie. Second lie would be when you want to go out and get the drug or get the alcohol, and you have to lie to your spouse, well, I want to go do this, when you're actually going to go do that. And so...
Yeah, like all those times when you used to go to the gas station, were you getting drugs?
No, I would go probably smoke. I would go smoke pot. Okay. I would get in the car. That's where I hid. I would get in the car. I would go drink a beer and go smoke a joint and come back. Uh-huh. I always lied about going to the store, but yeah, I would take a drive. Yeah, that was my and I did that in my company when I was at my office. That's what I would do.
Well, I think this is brave that you're sharing this. I think this is real. I think this is honest. I think this gives an open look into your process and your evolution, and I think I hope this helps other people. It helps me as a daughter, knowing that you trust me to share your truth with me. It helps me to know that you're actually making an assessment, and maybe you're not fully you're still working through your things, right? And your life isn't figured out, but you're still hopeful and you're still trying. And to me, that's a very great thing. Very great.
Okay. All right. Are we done?
What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, first of all, everything that I said was the truth. Second of all, I guess there's a form of releasing as well with you. I think that needs to be done. I think truly. I think I think not only for you, but for me too. Uh-huh. I'm just being real, and I'm being honest, because that's what happens. That's truly what happens. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, yeah, I want you to forgive me if for all that. I hope that you can. I
forgive you.
But going forward, I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful. I'm very proud of you that you have this type of show that people can be real, and not only that, but I guess being an advocate for getting stories out that can make an impact in people's lives, because this will help somebody. This is going to help somebody that truly wants to get help. If they want to experience everything that I've gone through, the failures, right, the broken relationships, the distrust, going in and out of jail, then they can choose to do that. If they want to listen from me to show that it's not something that, if I had to do it again, I don't know. Maybe I'm not done with my chapters in my life. That maybe after I become a counselor and I make an impact in someone's life, maybe I can say, okay, yeah, you know what?
I wouldn't change anything.
I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, now you'd be like, I would change a few things.
Right now, I'm in the middle of this book to where I don't know. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And so maybe when I'm done with my book and the chapters and the rest of the chapters I have to write, then I'm hoping and I'm not hoping. I'm know for a fact that I want to be an LCDC counselor. I know that for a fact. I'm going to go back to Alcrán, not only here in San Antonio, but in Brownsville, more so in Brownsville, because that's where they need me more. Those are kids between 18 to 30, that have no life, no skills or anything worse than here in San Antonio, that I know that I can help them more. And so once I do that, then I think that I can look back and say, you know what? it was worth it. You know, I made a difference in someone else's life, and at the end, it was all worth it.
Yeah.
Right now, no, I can't say that because I'm still struggling myself. So,
Well, I love you.
I love you too, Mia.
And I'm thankful for you to be willing to even come on and be honest and be raw and not be resentful of me asking hard questions, because that's hard to do. And especially being my dad, it also means it brings another layer of personal things. Like this is the most, I would say, probably the most difficult conversation I've had in my life.
Well, this is well, the most difficult conversation I had in my life was probably with Joe Morales first, the pastor, and when I brought everything to the forefront, and I think this conversation with you has been fairly easy because I've been honest, because I've already processed all that. It was a little hard talking about the physical and the sexual abuse, when I got to that point, but I've already processed all that out already.
Yeah.
I've already dealt with that. It was kind of hard sharing it with you, but I'm glad that I did, because it's really tough, talking about that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I did. And now that I have it out, it's another form of healing still. You see, every time I share it, to me, I'm healing.
You're lighter.
No, I'm talking about. Well, not. I already feel lighter.
How does it feel? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, we have. Well, all that I've already done. That I've already done. But I'm talking about in eternal, and mentally and emotionally, it feels better every time I talk about it. Especially with you, my daughters that I love so much. It's even more. It's harder. It's harder.
Yeah.
Because I've never shared this with you, never, ever, only in a letter, but, so it makes it's difficult, talking about stuff, but it's easier now. You see, that's, I guess that's what I'm saying. It becomes easier to talk about it. And once you talk about it, I'm hoping that I can relate to others, because I know that I'm not the only one who's gone through this. Because remember, I told you when in my treatment class, in my pod, there was 60 of us, right? And out of those 60, I would say 80% of us went through everything that I went through, exact same thing. And so it was easier for me to understand them and them understand me. There was a connection there, you see, because we could relate to each other. And so it was easier to let it out. Now, for the first time, I'm actually dealing with someone that was and hasn't gone through what I've gone through. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult, But at the same time, that's what I'm saying. It's getting easier.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to Tuesdays with Andrea. There are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I appreciate you making the time to listen to mine. If you like this show and want to know more, check out TuesdaysWithAndrea.com, or please leave a review on iTunes or drop a line in the YouTube comments section. Until next time, please stay kind in your mind, nice on the web, and stay hella hopeful in your heart.